On a bright, quiet Christmas Eve morning, Marcus Hale sat alone in the back seat of his luxury car, staring out at the snow-dusted sidewalk while the world in front of him continued as if his heart weren't breaking. A few hours earlier, he had signed the final papers that dissolved the only partnership that had ever made sense in his life, his marriage. His glass office tower glittered behind him like a monument to success, but inside, he felt smaller than he ever had. That was when a tiny voice, soft but steady, reached him through the half-open car window and changed everything. "Don't cry, mister, you can borrow my mom. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Good Soul, because stories like this remind us that hope can show up when we least expect it." Marcus wasn't the kind of man who cried in public, but tears pressed against his eyes as he turned toward the little girl standing on the sidewalk. Her name was Nora Bennett, and she couldn't have been more than 7 years old. She wore a red knitted hat that was slightly too big, and her cheeks were pink from the cold and the excitement of the season. Behind her stood a modest, sunlit bus stop decorated with tape and paper snowflakes that the neighborhood children had taped up the day before. Marcus had come out that morning intending to donate anonymously to a nearby shelter, hoping that doing something good might numb the pain gnawing at him. Instead, a stranger's child had noticed his pain before he had found a way to hide it. He hadn't told Nora everything, only that he felt like he had lost the most important thing in his life and wasn't sure where to go next. She listened with the sincerity only a child can offer, nodding slowly as if she understood far more than her years suggested. Then, with a seriousness that startled him, she spoke again about borrowing her mom, explaining in innocent, heartfelt logic that her mother was very good at making people feel safe when they were sad, and that there was plenty of love to share, especially on Christmas. Those words, offered so freely, slipped past the walls Marcus had spent decades building and reached the lonely place inside him that no boardroom victory had ever touched. Later that morning, Marcus found himself walking through a small neighborhood park with Nora and her mother, Alina Bennett. The air was crisp and bright, the kind of clear daytime winter light that made everything feel sharper and more real. Alina wasn't impressed by his tailored coat or his reputation, she only saw a broken man trying to stand upright. She spoke gently, telling him that sometimes life knocks the strongest people down not to punish them, but to show them the parts of life they had missed while climbing. As they walked past children building snowmen and families carrying small wrapped gifts, Marcus felt something unfamiliar stirring inside him, not success, not control, but connection. The real challenge for Marcus didn't come from the outside world that day but from within. He had built his life on distance, on never needing anyone, on believing that vulnerability was weakness. Sitting on a sunlit park bench, watching Nora chase pigeons and laugh as they fluttered into the sky, he felt the weight of his loneliness more clearly than ever. He realized that he had money, influence, and prestige, yet he had no one to call and tell them how badly his heart hurt. The silence he had once celebrated now felt like a prison. Something shifted that afternoon when Alina invited him to join them at a small community Christmas lunch being held outdoors in the bright winter sunshine. Folding tables were set up under bare trees decorated with ribbons. There was no luxury, no marble floors, no assistants whispering in his ear, only people smiling at each other and sharing what little they had. Marcus arrived awkwardly, unsure where to stand, but he was welcomed without questions. He found himself serving soup, handing out bread, and for the first time in years, using his hands not to sign contracts but to help someone else feel warm. In that simple daylight gathering, Marcus felt his old identity begin to crack. He heard stories of strangers helping one another through illness, loss, and hardship. He saw Nora proudly pass cookies to elderly neighbors as if she were delivering treasure. Each small act created something in him that no quarterly profit report ever had, a quiet sense of purpose. By late afternoon, as the sun dipped lower and painted the sky in soft winter colors, Marcus walked back toward his waiting car. But he wasn't the same man who had parked there crying hours earlier. He paused, reached into his coat, and made a call that changed the direction of his company forever. He instructed his board to quietly fund community kitchens and neighborhood support programs, with no press, no headlines, and no credit attached. For the first time, he did something not for image, not for power, but purely because a little girl believed kindness could be borrowed and shared. Just before the ending, here is a special request. Comment, Christmas kindness, if you believe compassion can change a life. As the last light of day faded and the street lamps flickered on, Marcus looked back at the small park where Nora had first spoken to him. He understood now that he hadn't borrowed a mother that day, he had borrowed a reminder of what it meant to be human. If this story touched your heart or brought a tear to your eye, gently tap like, share it with someone who believes in hope, and support the Good Soul channel by staying subscribed. In the quiet of that Christmas Eve afternoon, Marcus finally felt something he thought he had lost forever, not wealth, not control, but peace, and this time, it was real.